Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a good day. I know that I am. I wanted to do a video answering some questions. I know that that you guys have probably heard me talk about or seen this little book in videos, and this is my idea book. And so if I have an idea for a video or a blog post, or if one of y'all ask a question, I make note in this little book so that I don't forget it. And so I was kind of going through it today just to see where my ideas were. And I realized that I had numerous questions that you watchers have been asking. And I've been meaning to do a video to answer the question, but it felt kind of like I felt like it'd make a really short video. And like, how do I do this? So I just was like, okay, I've got quite a few here. Let's just do all of them in one video. So these are me answering some questions. So I hope that this is fun. I'm sure it will be. Oh, but before we get into answering questions, did you guys notice anything new? Hey, sporting my new Mystics of Reallure wear here on the Heart of the Witch's Path channel. We have a local embroidery shop that we gave them years ago our logo. This is my coven logo. And so from time to time, we have various clothing made up for us, and so we just had these hoodies made. We've done some t-shirts and we've done some fleece jackets. So this is kind of a fun thing if you are a member of a coven, and if you guys are if you're planning to go somewhere as a group or something like that, you might want to consider, I think I've talked about this in various videos, you might want to talk about doing something like, this is embroidered, and of course silk screening is an option, and you can even do this at home on your computer. You can make your own iron-on designs and put them on t-shirts. So this is fun. This is something that the coven likes to do. Every so often we get some new clothes and we can wear it together. So when we go to convocation, you know that everybody's going to be sporting their Mystics of Reallure wear. So anyhow, let's get into the questions. I tangented enough. So the first questions I wanted to address are pretty recent. EmberRowan left some questions on my ABCs of, ABCs for the YouTube Pagan Challenge for my C correspondence video. She left these on that, in those comments. So I'm going to go ahead and answer them here. So her first question had to do with, did I know of any good websites or books to learn more about deity? And I would say, I'm not entirely sure, Ember, like what you mean by deity. I don't know if you're thinking about like the universal consciousness, or are you thinking about individual deities? But here's my advice, just kind of in general for deity and deities. I don't really know of any good websites. I mean, there's some good sites out there that might give you some good general knowledge. I'm not entirely sure what kind of information you're looking for, but I'm here to tell you that the best place to go to look, there's two suggestions that I have for you. The best place to go and learn about different deities from different pantheons, I would say go right to the source material. Go right to books on mythology. There are tons of them that are out there. If you're interested in the Norse pantheon, then I would suggest looking at the Eddas. There's a lot of good information there about the gods. There's Aesop's Fable. Well, not Aesop's Fables. That's not a good one. I'm trying to think. Grimm's is the fairy tales. I thought Bullfinch mythology, that has a lot of Greek references in there. Go to the myths. There's a lot more books that are available out there now. And I was taking a look really quick at my bookshelves to see what kind of mythology books that I have. And I would suggest to you too that if you don't have books on mythology, I would say go to a used bookstore or a lot of your big box stores like Schuler's and Barnes and Noble. A lot of them have used sections now. And so I would go there. There's always going to be a mythology section. And there's lots of course, you're going to find Greek. Of course, you're going to find some Celtic stuff. I want to say that I was trying to think, the Stewarts, I think, do a couple of different books on Celtic mythology. But there's lots of resources out there for the big pantheons like Greek, Celtic, things like that. But there's also more and more coming out for some of the lesser known, like the Slavic. I picked up a Slavic mythology book a couple of years ago when I was doing research on that particular pantheon. You can also hit up the internet and you can find myths there as well. I've actually found the Eddas on audio. So if reading, like if you don't have a lot of time for reading, but you can listen, there is mythology books on audio, so you can check them out that way. And I was actually, when I was going through my bookshelves, I didn't want to pull out a bunch of books and just have this turn into like, oh, buy this book. Oh, buy this book. No, I'm just saying look for mythology. But an interesting book that I do have is this book called Myth Astrology, and this is by Raven Caldera. This is exploring planets and pantheons. And so this is a book that I'd honestly forgotten that I'd had. So I really want to go back and reread this one and check it out again. But these are stories, these are myths. In the preface, Raven talks about how he came to write this book, and he actually put out the intention. Let me back up a little bit. What this book is it's each of the planets plus the sun and the moon. And there are stories, there are myth stories, and these people, these deities that are in the story, it corresponds with the planet, okay? And so Raven talks about how he put out the intent for, a deity. What planet do you feel that you go with and why? And so he said that this was a very transformative book for him to write. And so these are stories told from his perspective about different myths. And so it all ties in with astrology. And so I thought this was kind of an interesting book to go to, because it not only do you have the myths and the astrological kind of tie-in, but the deities that Raven talks about are actually cross pantheons. There's I thumbed through this really quick, and you've got Greek, you've got Central American, so like Mayan, you have obviously Greek, there's Norse, there's African deities and things like that. And this is a pretty hefty book. I hope that this is still in print. Maybe I should have checked that before talking about it. Raven Caldera comes to Convocation quite often. So that's where I picked this one up. This is over 400 pages. And I would highly recommend this book just because it's going to give you a taste and it's going to tie in with some other things. I want to look at this as I begin my Master Spell series for this year again, and see if that adds any layer of knowledge to spell work. So I would, myths. That's one way to know and learn about deity. The second thing is to do, like Raven talked about, meditate. Seek meditation. Seek your own relationship with deity, whether that be the universal one deity or individual archetypes or individual deities. That there's no better way to learn about those kinds of spirits, be it a spirit guide or a deity. There's no better way than to actually experience with them and to go into meditation and seek a relationship with them. That would be my best advice for you. I hope that helps. Let me know. So Ember also asks my opinion on tongue-tied today, sorry. My opinion on man-made stones like opalite and goldstone. I would say that if there are correspondences out there for those types of stones. Goldstone, I don't know if everyone is familiar with what goldstone is. I'm not super familiar with opalite, but goldstone, it's available in green, in blue, and like a brownish gold, almost like a bronze color. And what it is it's a stone that's that whatever that color is, and then there's flecks of glitter. I have no idea how it's made, but I know that it's man-made because it's glitter, otherwise known as the herpes of the crafting world. I think I've said that before. I don't think I own any goldstone in any color. I don't think. But I mean, if it speaks to you, then I say use it. I mean, you can go out and pick up stones from your driveway and use it in spell work if you want to. I mean, it's an individual taste. It's, whatever resonates with you. I don't particularly use them, but I guess I've found use in other stones, in other gems, in other crystals. So I say use it if you got it, use it if you want it, use it if you like it. I will say that I think that sometimes colored stones is weird to me, but don't let my opinion sway you from not using it. I think that howlite, for example, howlite is a stone. It's a white stone that will have black lines running through it. And I want to say that it might be part of the agate family, but I could be wrong. If somebody knows and can correct me, then feel free to do so. Because I'm definitely not a stone expert. But I know that oftentimes howlite will be dyed different colors to be used or passed off as other stones. For instance, howlite could be dyed a teal color and used as turquoise. I think that's a little weird, and I've seen a lot of like the sliced stones that are polished and used for coasters and wind chimes, and they're like purple or blue or whatever. I think that's a little weird, but I mean, if other people likes it, that's fine. That's my own personal taste. So I don't think I have. Well, I think I've got like one jewelry box, like a little wooden box that has like blue stone in the top of it. And I don't know if that's dyed or not. But in general, I don't purchase those types of things for myself. But again, if you want to use them or if you want to own them, if you like purple and want purple and only purple and you want those purple stones to use as coasters, then go for it. My opinion shouldn't matter to you. So how's that? That's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it. Ember has one last question. She wanted to know what kind of witchy music gets me in the mood to do witchy stuff like spell work or what have you. And I would say anything Celtic I like. Anything with a beat I like. I've recently discovered a group from Belarus. And their name is, I hope I can say this properly, Dzvia. I think that's how you would pronounce it. It's spelled Dzivia. And their music, there's some of their songs that have lyrics, but for the most part, what I've experienced is only music. It's only instrumental. And they have one album out, and you can check it out on YouTube if you want. They have a home or a channel, and there's other people that have posted, you know, songs and things like that. It's really cool stuff. Depending on like what I'm doing, if I'm doing a ritual or if I'm doing spell work, a lot of times I don't necessarily use music. But if I'm meditating, then I almost always use music. And so I like music that can help to take me on the journey. So if I'm doing shamanic work, I will oftentimes do drum work. And I think I've talked about this maybe before in another video, but Michael Harner, who wrote a book on shamanism, there's also a CD of drum music that he released some years ago. I have that disc, and I will use that for journeying. There's lots of, crazily enough, there's a lot of music out there available. I would say to use something that goes along with the feel that you're trying to create. I also like Tibetan singing bowls. I like that kind of music. That's a good all-purpose. I'll even go to sleep. One thing that I try not to do is if I'm going to use music for meditation purposes, I do not use it to fall asleep to, because that will only inspire me to fall asleep if I'm meditating. So there's a little helpful hint from me there. But I like Tibetan singing bowl music, and I also like, there's some tracks out there that have the singing bowls with thunderstorm. Oh, that's the bomb. That is the bomb right there. I really, really like meditating to those. So that's kind of some of the music. And I have Spanish guitar that I listen to sometimes. It just kind of depends on what I'm doing. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. I've actually got a list of, I've got 2 different lists of like witchy inspired music that I'm trying to figure out like the best way to share, because Kathy and I usually do the top 10s, but because of copyright, I don't know if I can like share snippets. I need to kind of look into those kind of rules, but I want to share them. So those are Ember's questions. The next question is from Sarah Allen, and Sarah was asking about some good starter spells to kind of jump into spell work. What are some things to use? I would say good starter spells are simple ones. If you're new to working magic, then I would suggest simple spells. One thing that always comes to mind when I think of a simple spell is actually one that I use quite often, and that is squat, squat, find me a spot, when you're in a parking lot trying to find a parking space. And that's a spell that I heard from somebody a long time ago. And then when you find the spot, you're supposed to chant squat, squat, thanks for the spot. So little simple things like that are good. And those are things that you can write yourself that will get you in the habit of writing words of power for spell work. A couple of books that I would suggest to you, mostly because they're the ones that I started off with, I would suggest looking at spells that have natural elements. Okay, so simple and natural. Those are 2 big things that I would suggest. And the 2 books, I talked about these in my spell book video that I did. These are Earth Power and Earth, Air, Fire, Water, both by Scott Cunningham. These books have been out forever and a day, I believe. But what I like about these is that they're all natural elements. So when I say natural elements, I mean things that are found in nature. So we're talking stones, we're talking herbs, we're talking words of power, we're talking candles, things like that. So I'm trying to flip through here really quickly. These are broken into categories, these books are. So there's a peace bath, for instance, and this is as simple as drawing a bath, and you pour some milk into a large bowl, you say some words of power, and you add some rose petals, and then you're going to stir that with some more words of power, and then you're going to put the mixture into the bath. Those are the types of things that I mean when I talk about simple nature spells. I wouldn't suggest a new person just getting into spell work and magic. I wouldn't suggest looking at ceremonial magic and trying to do a rosy cross and doing all the LBRP and LBHP or LB, the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram. Sometimes my letters don't come to my... I wouldn't suggest doing that straight out the gate. If that's something you're interested in and want to build up to it, then go for it. But I would think that good starter spells are nice, simple ones. And that's what you're going to find in books like these. You don't need to have crazy incense that you have to mail order from Yugoslavia or something like that to use in a spell. You know, stick with your frankincense, your myrrh, the things that you're going to find quickly and easily. Those are the best types of spells for someone who is new. So I hope that that's helpful to you, Sarah, and let me know if you have any other questions. And the last question, I'm really hesitant about talking about this question because I don't want backlash. So, but I'm feeling brave today, boys and girls. I'm gonna do it anyhow as soon as I have a little sip of tea. So, before I even vocalize the question, let me say that my answer is my opinion. And I don't expect anyone watching to have my same opinion on anything that I talk about. My channel is all about my opinion, my experiences, and just how things have worked for me. So let me just, preface that by saying that. So this is a question from Stacy's Stash, and she was asking which Wicca authors didn't work for me. And so, like I said, I'm a little nervous and a little leery about answering this question, but I'm going to. The list is actually pretty short, and I have to say that there was a time when I was a newbie witch when I was buying a lot of books. And so there are books that I purchased that didn't necessarily work for me. And I actually still have some of these books that, but a lot of them I've actually cycled out and either gifted to other new witches or sold or, whatever. So the list that I have is pretty short and it's pretty concise as to why I don't necessarily like these authors. So take that with a grain of salt. I am not saying that any of these authors are bad. I am not saying that you should not check them out, because you should. I think that, knowledge is power, and even if you don't like something doesn't mean that you don't necessarily need to know about it. Okay? So, short list. The first person that just didn't work for me is Fiona Horn. Fiona Horn, the book that I purchased from her is called Witch, A Magical Journey, A Guide to Modern Witchcraft. And if you will remember, Fiona Horn she is a musician. She's from Australia. I'm trying to remember some of the high points of her existence. And she's a witch. Back in the day, the Sci-Fi Channel did a reality show, and I don't even remember what it was called, but it was kind of like a Big Brother scenario where they had all of these people that were kind of from fringe groups. They came to live in a house and adventures ensued. And I believe that Fiona was on this show. Now, I can't tell you exactly why she didn't click for me. There was just something about her writing style and the setup of that particular book that just did not speak to me, and I didn't keep the book for that long. So I believe I passed it on to one of my baby witches, and what happened to the book after that, I'm not really sure. So if someone has good experiences with Fiona Horn, I would love to hear about them, because just because I didn't like her doesn't mean that she doesn't have value. I will probably say that a couple of times throughout the rest of this. Bear with me because I'm answering my questions. The next persons on my list are actually a wife husband duo, and that's Yvonne and Gavin Frost. And to be truthful, I never bought any of their books, and the reason that I didn't is because they did a book on white witchcraft that just, the title of it just didn't even sit well with me. There's a lot of stereotypes that happen with witchcraft and, worshiping Satan, and negative connotations and negative stereotypes that come from history. And it's my personal opinion that dealing with white and black witchcraft does nothing to advance the cause, so to speak, of witches and Wicca and it becoming more mainstream. And so I just didn't even want to support that whatsoever. So I never bought that book, and I never got into any of their other stuff. As a matter of fact, I want to say that one of my coven sisters had purchased another one of their books, and she just didn't like them. So I just didn't get into them. So that might be a weak opinion on my part, but it's my opinion, and that's where it's at. So next on the list, this one could get me in trouble, and I'm sorry, but it's Raven Grimassi. Right now, my coven and we are reading a Raven Grimassi book together, and one good thing that it's doing is it's providing a lot of discussion for us. I think that there probably had to be a time in Wiccan history where Raven Grimassi's work it had credence. And I know that my teacher, Christopher Penzak, I know that he's close friends with Raven and his wife, Stephanie. His books just do not speak to me. His writing style is odd. And maybe it's something that I, because I'm spoiled in reading Christopher's work, Christopher will cover the same subject in multiple books to the same degree, and then you'll get to a point where it goes even deeper. And that's just how he is. And I don't know why he's that way. I've never had an opportunity to ask him about it. Maybe I will in March. Who knows? But Raven Grimassi, instead of explaining a topic, will say, I'm going to go into this in chapter so-and-so. Or I'm going to go into this, or I go into this more in my other book, so go buy that. And it's weird to me. It's weird, and I don't like it. And he's very much his way or the highway. So it's just not speaking to me. And if someone else has a different perspective on him, then I am not bashing him whatsoever. These are just my opinions on how it doesn't click with me. So I'm just going to stop there. The next person on my list is Care Kahulin. And I don't think that Care is a bad author in any way, shape, or form. I've taken classes with Care at Convocation, and I think he's a really cool man. His books don't speak to me because of his tradition. His tradition is that of a warrior, and it's different. It's a different perspective from Norse. And so that approach to Wicca just doesn't speak to me. And it's unfortunate because like I said, I really enjoy him as an individual and his story and things like that. But his books just don't do anything for me. And then one last person that just doesn't work for me is Silver Ravenwolf. I just feel like I got to cruise through some of these and just kind of leave it as it is. And I think that for me, Silver Ravenwolf, it's probably the same reasoning as Care Cahulan. When I came to witchcraft, there were other books that were available. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that they came to witchcraft through Silver Ravenwolf's books. And I've had a couple of her books. I actually still have one book, but I've since passed on some of the other books that I have. They didn't do anything for me. And it's not because she's bad. It's not like any of these individuals are bad authors or have bad perspectives or anything like that. They just didn't speak to me. And so there's those are the authors that just don't work for me. I'm just gonna stop at that. So that's all the questions that I have for right now, and I'm looking at a 30-minute video, so I'm just gonna shut her down now and say that if you like this kind of video, I'm happy to do more. I know that there are other folks out there that will put out, for instance, on Twitter or Instagram, that they want to do a Q&A and, you know, excuse me, give their followers an opportunity to ask questions. If you're interested in me doing some videos like that, I'm more than happy to do that. Let me know in the comments below if that's something that you would like me to do. And so if you liked this, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. It's really cool having all of you checking back and making comments. I really appreciate that. If you're not comfortable leaving a comment here on, you know, on the video or whatever in the comments, and you want to email me, you can do so at heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com. And I've got the Instagram that we're having fun with. And Kathy's got an Instagram too. Her handle is Slays Vamps. And of course mine is Heart of the Witch's Path. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching, and thanks for walking the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.